I never imagined I'd see her warship again. The ecliptical Fury, once the pride of the Orion fleet, had been abandoned for decades, drifting in the void like a monument to a war no one cared to remember. I had spent years chasing rumors of its existence, scavenging the outer rim sectors, following faint energy signatures and ghost reports, until finally I found it orbiting a dying star on the edge of known space. When I first boarded, the silence was suffocating. Its corridors were littered with corroded machinery, scorch marks from long-forgotten battles, and a pervasive stench of burnt fuel and ozone. The hull had been breached in places, and every panel I touched crumbled to dust. Yet, in the dim emergency lighting, I could still feel the ship's presence, like a heartbeat, faint but persistent, echoing to the cold steel. I had been a mechanic once, one of the best in the Orion sectors, but even I wasn't prepared for the magnitude of what I faced. This wasn't just a ship. It was a fortress, a mobile armory capable of leveling planets. Restoring it meant surviving weeks alone, scavenging for parts, jury-rigging power conduits, and coaxing life back into systems that hadn't breathed in decades. But there was something about this vessel that demanded my dedication. Someone waiting. I worked through cycles of suspended sleep. My tools became extensions of my hands. The hum of the repair drones and the hiss of coolant lines were my constant companions. Some nights, I swore I heard whispers through the comms channels, faint as the dying pulse of the engines. I chalked it up to exhaustion. But deep down, I knew it wasn't my imagination. Day 47. If I still measured time the way planets did, I finally reignited the auxiliary power cores. Sparks danced along the conduits like lightning, and the ship groaned in protest, its immense mass flexing as if stretching after a long sleep. I was exhilarated, breathless, and terrified all at once. The ship was waking, and with it, something else stirred in the void. Then she appeared. The Queen. I had heard stories, how she led the Orion fleet with a mix of brilliance and ruthlessness unmatched in recorded history. Tales of her courage, her cunning, her command over both allies and enemies alike. I had never seen her personally, yet her presence filled the ecliptical Fury as soon as I engaged the main interface. "Human," she said, her voice transmitted through the ship's restored comms. Smooth, commanding, but tinged with curiosity. "You've done the impossible." I just followed the systems. I stammered, unsure how to explain years of labor in mere words. The ship, it was still alive. I just had to wake it. Her laughter was like silver chimes across the metal corridors, and it resonated with something primal in me. "Alive," she echoed. "No, you've revived it. You have restored what even my fleet could not maintain. Few are worthy of this task. Fewer still are alive to tell of it." I froze as her image materialized on the hollow projector in the bridge, a regal figure, clad in the silver and obsidian armor of her station, her piercing eyes scanning me like she could see every scar I carried, every doubt I tried to hide. She was more than stories had prepared me for, more commanding than any hologram or record could convey. "You've been alone?" she asked softly. "Yes, for years," I admitted, though the word fell hollow. I didn't expect anyone to come." She stepped closer in the projection, though I knew the distance was meaningless in the void of space. "And yet, here you are, alone, determined, stubborn as any human should be. I am grateful. Grateful." It was a simple word, but it struck me like a pulse through the circuits and bones alike. My hands, still covered in grease and scorch marks, trembled. "What happens now?" I asked, knowing the answer was more than I could imagine. "Now," she said, and her image flickered with faint static. As the main engines powered up, we fly. Together, the hum of the ship escalated to a deep, resonant roar. Panels flickered to life. Engines ignited, and the ecliptical fury shuddered as though stretching its massive limbs. I clutched the console, overwhelmed by the sheer energy surging through the hull. Outside the viewport, stars streaked as the ship accelerated, leaving the dying star behind like a memory. She appeared beside me on the bridge, her projection now solid, tangible through the new neural interface I had reconnected to the ship. She placed a hand on my shoulder. Light from reactors glinted off her armor, and for a moment, time froze. "You've done more than restore a vessel," she murmured. "You've restored hope." I could barely speak. I didn't think anyone remembered the fury. "I remembered," she said, eyes locking with mine. "I never forgot. And now, neither will anyone else." The first mission of the restored warship was immediate. Pirates from the neighboring sectors, emboldened by the legend of the Fury's demise, had begun raiding supply convoys. I had barely gotten the engines online when alarms screamed across the bridge. Sensors lit up with dozens of incoming vessels. Fast, nimble, but poorly armed compared to our arsenal. "Human, take the helm," the Queen commanded. Her voice was calm, steady, but edged with a thrill I didn't recognize. "Show me what you can do." I obeyed, hands steady despite the adrenaline roaring in my veins. The Fury responded like a living being, shifting its massive frame, weapon systems calibrating, shields rising in arcs of iridescent energy. It was no longer a ship of the past. It was ours. The battle was chaos condensed into moments of clarity. Missiles screamed through space, energy cannons flared, and the Fury's plasma turrets responded with precision, guided by my hands and the Queen's commands. Time seemed to dilate as I moved, calculated trajectories, and felt the ship anticipate my thoughts. We were synchronized, human and warship, pilot and sovereign. When the last pirate cruiser exploded into a glittering cloud of debris, silence fell. The void seemed to exhale with us. I slumped back in the pilot's chair, chest heaving, sweat and oil mixing on my skin. The Queen's hand rested lightly on my arm, grounding me. "You did well," she said. "Better than I imagined." I couldn't meet her gaze. It was a ship, it guided me. "No," she countered, her eyes softening. "It was you, always you." For a moment, the distance between duty and desire blurred. The warship hummed beneath us, alive and vast. Yet the real gravity was a Queen's presence beside me, her hand lingering just long enough to send a spark through my chest. She pulled me closer, and I realized the moment was not one I would ever forget. The engines roared in harmony with our racing hearts, and for the first time in years, I felt whole. Days turned into weeks as we charted new courses, reclaiming sectors lost to chaos, warning systems reignited, and outposts secured. The crew, one skeletons of long-forgotten personnel stored in cryo-bunks, were revived, trained, and led under our combined guidance. Tales of a human mechanic who had restored the legendary ecliptical fury spread like wildfire, inspiring hope across systems that had long since surrendered it. But the Queen and I shared more than duty. In quiet moments, She spoke of her life beyond the throne, of the loneliness that accompanied power, of the fears and victories no historian would record. I listened, sharing my own years of solitude, the night spent in empty docking bays, the cold hum of distant stars as my only companions. And slowly, in the shared glow of control panels and engine cores, an unspoken bond grew, something neither of us had anticipated, yet both had quietly desired. One evening, as the Fury glided past a cluster of new colonies, the Queen approached me in the observation deck, stars reflected in her eyes, and she offered a rare, genuine smile. "You've restored more than a ship," she said. "You've restored me." I swallowed, words failing me. She closed the distance, resting her hand against my chest. "Do not speak. Let this be understood in the only language that matters here, the rhythm of engines, the hum of the Fury, and the space between us." I took her hand in mine, feeling the warmth, the reality of her presence. The stars outside stretched in elongated streaks as we accelerated toward uncharted sectors. For the first time, I understood what it meant to be part of something eternal. Not just a ship, not just a fleet, but this connection, this singular bond forged in the crucible of void and metal. And as the ecliptical Fury roared, engines alive and systems humming in harmony, she pulled me close, and I realized that some legends were not merely tales of warships or battles. They were tales of the hearts that restored them. The galaxy stretched before us, infinite and waiting. And for the first time in a lifetime adrift, I had a place where I belonged, among stars, engines, and a queen who trusted me with more than just her warship. The Fury was alive. We were alive. And together, we would carve a new chapter into the endless void.